So it's not enough to have something that can shock people, because that's what we claim we have. You know, that's literally just yesterday they were saying that, sure, I know I have something that can shock people. But it's not enough to have something that can shock people. It's also, are you able to keep going to the places where these people are, to shock them long enough to maintain relevance? It's so fucked up, because you have to first be willing to go where they are to shock them. But to keep going long enough to maintain relevance to the day you're like, oh, let me fall off, is good. You understand? Yeah. Because the day you stop, it drops more. Yeah. Eddie Ross experienced that. You know, as he stopped and just became, oh, Justin, he was happier. When he left LA and went to Miami, he was happier. But then everybody was like, oh, is this thing? Why? Because they're no longer seeing him in the typical places we see you. It's like a process that we are not seeing you in those joints anymore. It's like, I'm happier. Because like, here, you don't have customers. The men are not going to look for you in your house. They're coming to this joint. You have to come to this joint. They drop you back by 12. You go to the other joint. You have to keep doing that. The moment you stop doing that, you understand? Yeah. This is not just collaboration with people. It also means video ideas. It also means type of dramas and all of that. You understand? Yeah. So, it's not enough to have something that can shock people like I do. It's also to personalize it. Am I willing, one, and then able to keep going to the places where the people I want to shock are, to shock them long enough to maintain relevance for as long as I would love to maintain relevance, which is for as long as ever. You understand? Yes. And for the speed type audience, that is an audience that I crave for, the answer to that question, the true answer really is no. I am not willing to go to all those type of places. By places, remember, we're not talking about literally places. And on top of it, I am not able to go to some, but I'm not even willing to do all of that. I cannot. So the real thing is to take the L on the chin and accept the reality that on this modern day internet, I don't have what it takes to become a shocking viral nuisance. Are you following? Yes. Not that I don't have the elements, what it takes. And what are we talking about here? The zeal it takes. You know, when Kai was explaining his tattoo, AMP, any means possible. I am not willing to get internet fame by any means possible. Do you get? Yeah. I'm only willing to get by any means within I have like limits. And once I have limits, then you are not that guy. Yes. And I am choosing to impose limits on myself in this regard. You are following? Yes. In this regard. So I look at all of those things. Am I willing to have those sort of relationships that are fake? Most try out this thing. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not going to do that for fame. Do you understand? Yes. Are you following? Yes. But that is how this person got there. Because there's no other route left, seemingly. You understand? Yes. It's like the most extreme. The extreme that meets my extreme has been beat. Do you get? Yes. Mm-hmm. It's like the extreme that I can be, which is really extreme, has been beat. I get. That I am not willing to beat that extreme. It's not even about ability now, which there's that. I'm not willing. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. I understand. So I have to then, it's like, oh, if it's like there's a boxing match, for example, and somebody decides that in order to have competitive advantage, they are going to induce him with some kind of drugs. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, here's where I draw the line. You understand? Yeah. All right, I'll just let him have it. Do you get? Yeah. Because for me, it's not any means, but somebody's there like, no, I'm going to become a world champion by any means possible. And so if it's drugs, fuck it, let's do it, which many champions have. Yeah. And so once you start competing with those people, I take my hand off. Because I would not jeopardize myself in exchange for clout. Do you understand what I mean? There's how much I can compromise, but I'm not willing to compromise everything. And sadly, in this aspect, for the type of audience I want, you understand what I'm saying? In order to rise to that level in which the top people there are, I have to compromise on certain things I am not willing to compromise. Because the people that have raised that standard, for some reason, did not care that much about themselves and were willing to do those things. And so once you get in a competition with a man who does not care about himself, you lose. And I accept it. That's why I say it's to truly, humbly take the L on the chin. I take the L on the chin because there's a limit to it. Do you get what I mean? Yes. I'm willing to go far, very far, but I'm not willing to go beyond. You know, I'm willing to stand on the edge. But right now, you know, they say edgy jokes because it's on the edge. Remains small, it will no longer be joke. I'm willing to make edgy jokes. But you know what we have now? Straight up, not jokes, just attacks and violations. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. And so, for those ones that completely cross the line, I can almost cross the line, which is what extreme is supposed to be. Yeah. I can decide that I will almost cross the line. But that's all I will do, almost cross the line. But to have gotten to this type of audience, sadly, creators like the ones we've mentioned have had to cross that line because it's full. Many people have stood on that edge. People are never that interested in consuming it anymore. The viewer has learned that you can actually jump off the edge. And so they no longer tolerate you almost stopping there. And so now you have to actually straight up go off the edge. And I am not willing. So I've not even gone past willing, let alone to now talk about ability. Is that I am not even willing, even at the promise. You understand what I'm saying? Of all that fame and relevance. To constantly do that. The nature of it. It's not like there's one particular thing you need to do again and again. It's a bunch of random things, this thing that you need to just keep doing again and again non-stop. Do you get it? Just remember all the times when all those videos were made about streamers and toxicity and whatever. That's all the price these people paid to get there. Remember all the time everybody was worried and whatever. And when people also blamed the roads for speed, whatever, and it just says not to blame.
It's easily forgettable.
Yeah, it's easily forgettable. Because once as long as the person is still there. And just now looking this thing, you forget that, well, there was that phase that was so toxic. I don't recommend when I even see anything about him. Because it's like, why? But that's what paid the price for this. That's how he got here. What has happened is that he's now almost like those old YouTubers. Don't you forget that they've been around for a long while. That's why they can sit down and make videos. There's the tendency to forget, largely because for a person like Speed, it's like 2 years ago. You just forget how much he did in that 2 years. And how much of those things had negative effect. You understand? So the real thing is to take the L on the chin and accept the reality that on this modern day internet, I do not have what it takes to become a shocking viral nuisance. Here's the thing. I do not have what it takes to become a shocking viral nuisance. I have what it takes to become to be not to become, to be a viral entertainer. But are you following? Yeah. To be. So if you snap your finger, throw me into the side men, boom, 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 I have attention. People love it. Oh, clips will go viral. But that's me being already an entertainer. The road to being an entertainer of that magnitude in this day and time, to the best, no, not to the best of our knowledge, it's facts, obvious. So far, so good, explored ways. You understand? By the ways that have been proven by everybody who has come before in this day and time, is to become a shocking viral nuisance. Then you will now end up being a viral entertainer. What I am is a viral entertainer. And sadly, just being a viral entertainer has not proven to be able to allow you to have an audience. You have to take a break from being just a viral entertainer to being a shocking viral nuisance. Attention comes to you, then you now go back to viral entertainment. That's what I have. And that's dope, that's rare, that's crazy that I have that. You understand? It means that if you put me in a scenario that for entertainment, I'm going to be one of the people that will be most remembered by anybody from any part of the world that watches that video. But nobody's going to put you in those scenarios until you become, unless, so far so good, unless you become a shocking viral nuisance. And with the level at which the standard that has been created for viral nuisance, I cannot shock when I do my own. Do you understand? if you took me 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, you know what I'm saying? Maybe. But with the level of shock the audience have felt, I cannot shock them enough. That's the point I'm making. So it's not that I don't have the ability to put up a shocking viral nuisance performance. At the standard of shock, I cannot beat the current standard of shock. So the shock value in the things that I can do that are supposedly shocking has dropped. And here's the thing, I might be able to do 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. I'm not saying I cannot do at all, but enough to become a shocking viral nuisance, to be labeled that I must do it again and again and again and again. And like other again and again that people have ever said, this again and again never ends. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. So it's not like I can put up a shocking viral performance that makes you go, oh yo, that was crazy. I need to put up 100 million of it across scenarios that are too toxic or too negative that I am not willing to compromise on. You understand? So that's that with that the personality based content. With personality based content in the aspect, to be in aspect of like the typical speed audience, in order to get to a point where I'm a top creator in that, I would need to be a shocking viral nuisance, because that's quite frankly what speed is, right? Now, in order to be that, I have to do things that are too toxic for my liking. Let me just simplify it that way. It requires a level of toxicity I am not willing to compromise and be participating. It's because it's an insane one. You understand what I'm saying? It's too insane. The reason it is even success, it works, is that the door was shut. But forever, in anywhere, if you are willing to do what nobody is willing to do, you will succeed. Logan Paul said that in 2017. It's like, yeah, well, in 2017, I would have probably been able to do what people are not willing to do. But people are now willing to do toxic things. So in order to do what they're not willing to do, it has to be more toxic than they're toxic. But I'm not even supposed to do toxic. So people got away with things like just, slightly negative, slightly offensive. Now it's toxic, very toxic, that is bad for you. Because offensive is nothing anymore. You know what I'm saying? It is something in an entertaining, if you're already an entertainer. But to shock people to virality, the kind of virality you need, it's not. So if they took you and just placed you in, like, oh, you already have the audience, then it work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Work to just entertain them, not work for them to share, not work for people to talk about you. Basically, what I have is what is now the status quo for maintaining an audience, not for getting discovered. And what I have is crazy. Like, I can scream, like I can show my ass on camera. I can do almost anything. But that's just what it takes to entertain people, to keep their attention. That's not what it takes to shock them, to share your clips. Do you understand? Yes. So yeah, that's that for personality based. Now on the other end of YouTube, just as in the same manner too, I do not have the resources it takes to become a shocking viral idea based creator, because the resources for that is relationship with other viral idea based creators, money, a lot of money, and a lot of time, and yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have that resources either to become a viral based job creator. Both idea based content creators and personality based content creation all require a level of shocking delivery. Are you following? Again and again and again, both of which I am not equipped for. If you remember, Mr. Beast was telling Coffeezilla, like, now this video, if you want to go back, you can't just say interview. It has to be like, you must stop now and what? That's the problem. That's where we are. That's the reality. Unfortunately for Mr. Beast, he is able to. For the content of idea based, I am willing. I don't have ability. For the content of the personality based, with where it currently is, I'm not even willing. I cannot even be willing. Do you get? So that one is even worse. It means that one is personally shut off by me. This one is situation, time, eventually to potentially gather the resources to find a way in. Are you following? And as hard as it seems to do Mr. Beast type content, I have a higher chance. Listen, of finding resources to eventually make videos that survive the crazy storm of Mr. Beast type content like Crazy Concept and Trian Era. I have a high chance of doing figuring it out and having success there than chasing clouds enough to be half as big as Speed in this day and time. Look at how impossible it seems to have a breakthrough. Nobody has had a true breakthrough since Eric and Trian. Trian has been around, so I don't even like to mention him. So let's just see Eric. Since Eric, Matthew Bean is it's not really there yet. You know what I'm saying? Eric is one that has like, oh, boom, stamped. And shots had to play a role in the number. As hard as that is, I have a stronger chance, a higher chance of one day being as big, like doing that, succeeding at that. Are you following? Yeah. Than of chasing clouds enough to be half as big as Speed. Look at those things. I'm not mentioning all. How am I going? I can't do those things. And so that means I won't even reach half of what it is, even if I do some more of it. Like Kai is big, but look at Speed. Big, and I can't even do what Kai did. And then look at the gap with Speed. Subscriber, anything, views, all of that, status. No disrespect to Kai, but at the moment he's not half as big as Speed. And look at all that he did. So part 3.